playing Project Cars. I will be driving the Ford Fusion stock car around Brno Raceway, something, whatever it's called. It's Brno. It's, I guess, in Czech Republic. I don't know how you pronounce it. I'm not from there. Anywho, this track is it's a lot of fun. I really love this track, and I decided I'd bring a stock car out here, and I just absolutely love it. It's just made for stock cars. It really is. We're going to kind of go through it. It's got a 10-lap race. We qualified first, so I probably could have turned up the AI difficulty just a little bit, but I figured this is probably good. This is something where when you're in the lead, you don't always have to drive as hard as you can. You can kind of ease it around the track. And I've definitely figured out a few tips around this particular track. Anyways, I think that could be very useful to you depending on what you're driving. I think it would work very well for this particular car. We'll see anyway. But we'll go ahead and get into it. Yeah, like I said, though, starting from first.
Okay, mate, focus on the lights. Nothing else matters now. Let's get a clean getaway and defend that pole position.
Kind of weird starting from a stop in a stock car. Coming into turn one, though, for the first time, you can drive in just a little bit more. And you just kind of roll around. You don't do anything. Ease into the throttle. And it's a pretty easy car. Once the thing turns red, you shift. Now, you have to use engine brake with this car in order to run good laps. We'll go over the braking points here in a little bit. Next lap, maybe. Right now, I'm pushing it just a little bit just to get myself a lead and get back familiar with the track. And, concentrate real hard on these turns. So for the most part, my braking zones are where the black starts. From rubber and stuff. For the most part, that's where they're at. Oop, didn't want to go into first. I pretty much am in second around all of these turns except for a select few. That was a little bit of an overdrive in that corner. That's alright. I'm kind of calming down a little bit, though. This one I find to be a little difficult. You got to actually kind of hit it just right, or you will overshoot it real easily. This one, I kind of just wait till after those tires. You can kind of get right back into the throttle after you go through those tires. Alright, braking zones. Right on the black there. Now, think about this turn. You could probably hold in the clutch while you're going around this turn. Save fuel, that's always helpful. I'm not going to do it anymore because my clutch is not a pedal. I do not have that yet. It's just a button. But it is possible. So we'll move on to this one. So you accelerate out. You just gotta follow this line. It's there. You just have to follow it. And when you're driving stock cars, you gotta be very patient with what you're doing. You can't get in too early. But when you do get into the throttle, you have to use it to help the car turn. You will notice sometimes I'm not really... You can't just get into it. Like, you can't just full throttle like you would probably wish you could. But that's what makes driving these cars fun and rather difficult. But went a little bit off further than I wanted to. This turn, you can kind of dive into it. That's kind of how I dive into it, like that. Kind of go in a little low, and you can just kind of stay in the brake through the turn. I find that turn a little difficult. You definitely just have to go a little slower than you think you do around that corner. As with this corner, you do have to brake maybe a little earlier than you think you do. This corner you can right around them tires. But see, that's what happens when I punched it maybe just a little bit too much. You got to ease into it. And 205, that's a 2 seconds slower than my qualifying lap, which is pretty good. So I'm a little bit lower on the racing line than I wanted to be. We'll just use that. But I mean, I'm not really driving quite hard. I could actually ease off just a little bit if I wanted. You know, the key here is consistency. Do the same thing over and over again. This track has a good rhythm to it, which is why I like it. You know, there's not a whole lot to it. It's not difficult. It just requires patience around some of these corners. But notice how I'm not coming off that turn all the way to the other end of the racetrack, because we got to immediately make a left turn the opposite direction. You don't want to put yourself in a position of going into that left turn on the bottom. So you only want to come out maybe at most about halfway across the racetrack, but you got to get yourself back over to that right side so you can make that left turn. So here we are, taking this corner pretty easy. We don't need to take it hard. Looks like right on at the end of the inside rumble strip was where I pretty much kind of get into the throttle. It really just becomes a feel for me. I just kind of know when I need to do things. You know, I know sometimes things are different. You know, we're not passing anybody right now, so there's not a whole lot else going on. So we're just taking our time. You know, we keep an eye on, in the bottom left, we keep an eye on the green tracker there for the guy behind us. But I take this corner pretty easily. There's no reason to take it too hard. It's a long sweeping turn, and if you got a car with a lot of downforce, you can hit it really well. Kind of stayed on that rumble strip a little longer than I wanted to. So there was that sign there. That's where I brake at there. That was pretty clear. I never really noticed it there before. It's pretty easy to just use the darkness on the track to know when to brake. Right when it disappears off the front of the screen. You know, get into the brakes. I didn't do anything with the setup to this car either. It's straight up default. And braking, I can go pretty hard into the brakes. I really don't use them too hard. You don't have to drive too hard. I'm not driving all that hard, and I'm still gaining time against the guy in second. So, like I said, though, I mean, I was aware of maybe the AI being just a little bit too easy, but I figured that would give us this opportunity to, you know, what do you do when you are in the lead? Because all too often when you are in the lead, you just constantly are making mistakes, and that's going to cost you the race. And if you have a big lead and you can keep that lead just at where I'm at, like I'm taking it easy through these corners and still gaining time. I mean, that's just how easy they are, unfortunately. During the practice, we ran the same. Like, I ran a 205 in practice, and I was like, well, that's about what I'm probably going to run anyways. And they ran 205s, so I was like, well, I guess we'll be pretty even. Obviously not. So, you know, we're just trying to stay pretty consistent with what we're doing. No reason to rush it. The guy in second isn't going to catch up to us at all. I mean, we're just continuing to pull away without trying to. I'm honestly not even worried about him, and I haven't been since like probably lap 2 or 3. You don't need to be. There's no reason to be worried about him. He's not catching up. You know, if I'm just going to continue to pull away without trying, I have absolutely nothing to worry about. I'm not going to force myself through these corners. There's no reason to. Obviously, if I had an H shifter, which I do plan on getting at some point, this would require a little bit more work, a little bit more concentration, downshifting through these corners. But you know, for this video, it's not really something I'm worried about, anyways. I'll kind of go ahead and talk about some of this gearing as well, I guess. You know, if you really wanted to, you could take this corner through in 3rd gear. It will increase the car's stability coming off of the corner. You know, you don't get loose so much. You won't find that rear end coming out from under you as easily. So that's always an option. Some of these I just kind of downshift just to get a little bit better acceleration out of the corner. But you could stay in 3rd on some of these, including this one. So there's a 2:05. It's a good lap. I'm kind of trying to keep them in the 2:05s. If I'm in the 2:05s, I'm good. You know, if we go to 2:04, we're good. If we got 2:06, you know, there's nothing wrong with hitting 2:06. 2:05 is pretty much what I want, though. That's the consistency I'm looking for. So there's that 100 marker sign. We can brake for that turn. It actually is a little bit earlier than we need it to be, but we don't really. I mean, we just continue to pull away. We don't need to force this car into these corners. I might even take this corner up here at the 100 marker rather than the black part on the track. Just giving myself a little bit of, you know, mistake-free. You know, we don't need to push it, so why would we? That's actually another thing. You don't want to push these cars too hard anyways. You wear out your tires a lot faster. More downforce helps your tires wear less. But these cars are pure weight, pure mass, not downforce, which technically downforce is weight. So, I mean, that's not really important because weight is a force, whereas mass is strictly how much it weighs. So pure mass is awful for tire wear, which is partly why F1 cars really, you don't see the tire wear quite the same that you see, say, NASCAR, which is what I typically watch. Got a little bit loose there. Believe it or not, road course racing is quite an exciting time in these cars, though, because you can't just fly through these corners like you think you can. It provides an interesting challenge. You know, I actually prefer to drive these over an F1 car because F1 cars just go so fast through the corners that I can't keep up. Whoops. Looked at the map a little bit there. I'll tell you what we will do, though, once we get to a good spot. We'll pull this up so you can see my throttle and brake. So you saw I was full brake there, not concentrating there. So full brake. I don't even know why I just shifted there. Ever since I pulled that thing up, there's so much stuff to look at. So see, you can be full brake and just fine. But notice, half throttle, you know, you just kind of pick it up slowly as the car straightens out, and then you can kind of just... Yeah, I'd even let out the brake a little bit early. It's very important, though, to understand throttle control. That can be life or death for these cars. It really is. So you see the black right there at the crest of that hill. Get into the brakes. You can actually see the power as well on the screen. If you can kind of figure out where the power starts to fall off and which RPM it's at when it does that, you can know exactly the best time to shift. Obviously, it's hard to look at, though, when you're trying to drive. Better to do it during practice. We'll try to do it just after 8,000. Somewhere between 8 and 9,000 actually looks to be the best place to shift in this thing before it'll start to drop. You can kind of let it roll through this corner a little bit as well. You know, it's real important you can kind of watch what I'm doing with my feet, so you know. Sometimes you don't even need to use brake. But you gotta remember, just because I'm not using brake doesn't mean you can drive harder into the corner. These cars don't have downforce. Downforce will help you stop. These cars have to strictly stop from their tires, and they have to use a really hard compound for these cars because of the weight. They don't like soft tires. There's too much pressure on them. They wear too quickly. You have to have harder compounds to last longer. That's a very important thing as well to understand. So we'll go ahead and bring it. We are over 20 seconds ahead with 2 laps left. I mean, we've pretty much got this one in the bag. At this point, my thing is to completely focus on driving. We have to make 0 mistakes. Even if we drive a little bit slower, there's no way in hell he's going to catch up. Because I'm not going to end up driving that much slower. Just kind of hitting our marks. Whoops. Don't want to do that. Revving the engine for no reason. Make sure you gotta make sure you shift. I didn't even need to shift there. I don't know why I did. I never do. But it definitely becomes a feely game with your feet to figure out how much throttle you want to give it. Sometimes you have to give it throttle to get the car to turn, but sometimes you don't want to do that yet, because if you give it too much throttle, then you'll just find yourself sliding off the track. But as you notice, I'm maybe driving a little bit harder than I should be, but I mean, we ended up driving faster. I braked a little bit too late there. We were able to save it because this car is very good in the brakes. That's why you don't want to be too far on the inside of the track right there when you're going to turn into a corner.
Great work out there. Pace is really strong. We're putting
Oops.
in the gap second.
I don't know why I thought that was a braking zone, but we're on the last lap. Clearly we've got this win. There's no way unless we wreck, but we're not going to wreck because we're not going to try that hard. We're just kind of doing our thing. We're not pushing the car too much. That's actually the last thing you want to do in this situation. Pretend like you're saving fuel. You know, you don't need to use everything you have. You use everything you have, you will actually lose the race because you're more likely to make mistakes. I wasn't in the throttle that hard there, it just kind of wanted to swing out on me. But notice our tire wear. It's very, very low. Well, it's not very, very low, but it's approaching halfway, especially on those left sides. Those left sides are wearing much, much faster than the rights. Which, with the way this track is turned, is going, that makes some sense. We do have to turn right more than we turn left in order to come back to where we started. So it does make logical sense as to why the left sides are wearing faster. But look, that was 10 laps around Brno. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you found it very helpful as well. I've had a lot of fun driving these cars. I had a lot of fun driving them with you. We just got an achievement as well. The Grand Slalom. Get pole position in qualifying, fastest lap in the race, and won whilst leading every lap. I'm pretty sure I've done that before, but hey, did it again, I guess. Got the achievement without trying to. So that's always good. But be sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more. Always let me know in the comments if there's a particular track or car or game, racing game that you want me to do with these ride-alongs. You know, it's all about studying the track. It's all about figuring out where to brake, where to gas, getting comfortable with the car as well. I drive stock cars a lot because I like NASCAR. So I just have a good feeling of how they work. I'm much better with them than I am any other car. So, you know, just always let me know that we can always get some practice going with other cars. I can still drive other cars. Success rate is much lower than with these, but hey, it can be done. But yeah, let me know in the comments if you want to see anything specific, and thanks for watching.